Good. Oh, good morning. It's 10 minutes till 12. Good afternoon. A little bit of a slow start this morning because I was up late. This morning, while I was searching on YouTube for my morning meditation music, an ad started, and I always skip the ads, but before I could skip the ad, it had the what do you call it when it puts the words across the video? It said, "Did you accidentally?" And it had somebody in a mask and like a hospital worker. It said, "Did you accidentally?" What did it say? I wrote it down. Did you accidentally kill someone? And I'm just assuming that, they're talking about the coronavirus and not being protected. I can't get this thing. So that brings me to my belief system. And I have evidence to back it up. And I guess I'm trying to prove it right, like most of us do with anything in life. We look for confirmation in our beliefs to make them true. Well, I believe this with everything. There's certain things that I believe in don't change. When I was younger, I told my mother, I think it was like 14, I said, well, sometimes you have to make mistakes and learn from them. I don't tell them what I did. I made mistakes growing up. And they were always pointed out. But even as I got older, there were times that she would mention that. And I'm not really sure how they were relevant. Like if she was trying to throw it in my face or whatever. But I still, to this day, I believe you have to make mistakes and you learn and grow from them. I raised my kids that way, cause and effect. I don't believe that you have to make mistakes to learn. And that's my goal, is to learn without going through the hardship and the heartache. That's where I struggle with some of the teachers that I listen to, and some of the success mentors are like, well, you have to go through the hard times to get to the good times. I don't subscribe to that theory. I don't. And when you listen to the stories, as far as when it comes to success, everybody has this woe is me. I was poor. I was living on the street. I was homeless. There's a lot of success stories out there where people didn't have that. Now they did go through challenges. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. When you deal with other people and other entities, things happen. But you have more control over it than you think. When I saw that, I was like, wow. And that's how a lot of things work. That's how a lot of religions work, is based off of fear. They want to scare you that you are going to cause someone else to die. So I have to start going. I just have to start, because this is really what I believe, and I share this with my inner circle, people closest to me that I know can handle it. But you're responsible for everything that happens to you. Now remember, there's a caveat to everything. So keep that in mind. When you go forward in life, don't take everything as concrete. Look for the yin to the yang. Look for the negative to the positive to the negative. And focus on what you want. It doesn't happen overnight. There is residual. We are humans. We have an ego. But when something happens to me, good, bad, or indifferent, if I'm questioning it, I will ask myself, what were my thoughts? What are my true feelings behind this? Without trying to analyze the other person, if it's other people involved, other things, I look deep inside and say, what was I thinking? How was I feeling? And go from there. Because that's what you do say, and what you feel is what you project. And then those, thoughts come into words, come into feelings, and you project that out. So if things are happening in your outer world, you have to figure out why. What did you do? And then sometimes that's why I have the serenity prayer right there on my door. So when I go out, there's things, God grant me the serenity to accept things that I cannot change. There's some things you can't change. There's some things that just, they came into your circumstances. Maybe the other person's attraction was stronger than yours, and they brought you into their world for some reason. It takes time, it takes practice. That's why I'm going to try and come to you every day and try to give you be as specific as possible to certain situations. And not the only thing I can give you is situations that I may know of or my own personal situations. But it's the way you think or don't think is what's allowing to happen to you. At its very core, I'm going to say you're not responsible for any. If somebody died because you had the coronavirus and they got it and they died, you're not responsible for that. Unless you purposely infected them. Whereas you have the same responsibility to protect yourself and perhaps wear a mask, which that brings up another subject. If you take the precautions not to spread it and someone else gets it, that's on them. That's where the connection starts happening. We're all particles bouncing around. We're all energy bumping into each other, connecting. And either you're purposely staying safe or you're just at default. So, now I'm not saying that nothing's ever your fault. But don't beat yourself up about it. And you have to look deep inside to figure out. If it was easy, everybody would do it. This idea that one day the whole world's going to be happy, everybody's going to get along, and there's just going to be happiness. Well, that contradicts everything that's said out there that you need opposites. So there's always going to be somebody that's got a different view of life and how it should go. That's why we have communism that way. That's why we have dictatorships still going on in this world to this day. That's just the way it works. So, twofold. Don't take responsibility for something that's not your fault when it involves someone else. But take full responsibility when things happen to you. It's a hard pill to swallow. That's one of the things that I still have a challenge with to this day. Because if I sit down and talk to someone and ask them how they think or they feel, it's the conscious mind. Because I know, because I go through these exercises for myself, and I know what I can say and what I think I feel consciously, but I had to start being aware of my thoughts as soon as they popped up. So, for example, money. Whenever the thought of money came up, or buying something, or have to pay bills, I felt anxious. Even though I could tell myself, oh, everything's going to be all right, I didn't believe it deep down inside. That's where the key is. When you totally believe and expect that everything's going to be okay and there's no ill feeling, not just saying it, not just speaking it into existence, but feeling it. Because when you feel it and you know it, without a doubt, you're changing the cells in your body. You're changing the frequency that you're putting out. It's scientifically proven. Try it and see. You'll start seeing things change in your life. Again, there's a yin and a yang. There's a fine line between when someone else is responsible for something that's happened and where your responsibility lies. And the only way to open your eyes to that is to back yourself out of the situation. Which, I give you an example. My daughter, my youngest, very bright, very intelligent. She has low self-esteem, low self-confidence. She makes a lot of silly mistakes. But her friends always come to her, and she'll tell me the stories. You know, so-and-so did this, so-and-so, and I told her this, I told her that. She can give great advice. A lot of us can. But for some reason, we don't take our own advice. So a lot of us know what to do and what to say. So now, the trick is, if you could take yourself out and have a conversation with yourself, what would you tell yourself? Now, it'll work for some of you, but some of you it won't. So, take responsibility for what happens to you. Allow, because remember, this whole principle, and this has helped me, and again, this is just Ron's choice. This is how I believe. Accepting the fact that I'm responsible for everything that happens to me allowed me to realize that if this is true, if this is how life really works, then I have to allow others to take responsibility for what they do. I'm not responsible for that. And that helped me out a great deal. It helped me out a great deal with my oldest. You cannot help someone that doesn't want to be helped. It's egotistical and narcissistic of you to think that even if you're doing it if you're like, oh, I just like to help. It's egotistical and narcissistic to think that you can help everyone. Right? So, again, there's a line. There's people that want help that just don't maybe not know how to ask for it. You've got, and that's how you've got to get in touch with your feelings. You can't let your emotions take over. You see something that's sad. Oh, that's why a lot of parents turn into enablers when they have kids on drugs. Because they struggle and they're like, oh, I need it. So they give them the drugs because they think they're helping. And, that's where the phrase tough love comes in. Because sometimes people just have to go on their path. And for you to think that, oh, if I just do this right, if I just say this right, I can change it. Even though it's good intentions and goodwill, sometimes it's not your place. And that's the challenge, trying to figure out when it is and when it's not. So I mentioned something about masks. I know everybody's confused about what's going on with the coronavirus, and New York has just said that mandatory masks in social gatherings, if you can't social distance, this is to protect the other people. It's very little protection for you. Unless you're a medical worker, that's where it protects you. Because you're right there close up on it and it's all getting in your face and it's all over the place. But when you're out and about, the mask is to protect other people. That's in case you're asymptomatic and you have it and you don't know it. That helps you from spreading the germs through the air. But keep in mind, everything you touch, you can still spread it. Keep in mind that everything everyone else touches, they can spread it. Because look at it logically. If we're all 6 feet apart, but we all at some point touch the same stuff. Everybody's got a mask on, everybody's got gloves on, and somebody has the virus. The virus gets on their glove. Let's say a handrail, for example. I touch a handrail, I put the virus on the handrail. Everybody else is 6 feet apart. They have their gloves on. They have their masks on. Everybody goes through and touches the handrail because they feel safe and secure. Everybody has the coronavirus on their glove. At that point, everyone that has touched that rail. So now, you touch your phone, you touch something else, you touch another surface. Even if you've got gloves on, you're putting that virus on something else. The same thing with everybody else that just touched that rail. So just keep in mind that gloves are only going to... Just keep your hands sanitized and keep your hands out of your face. That's the key. All this other stuff helps. Staying apart. Gloves, gloves I don't get because you can still spread it with the gloves, and when it comes time to take them off, unless you do it properly and then throw them away, then you don't have it on your hands. But if you touch things with your hands and then sanitize your hands, to me it's the same thing. But, whatever. You can still spread it with the gloves. That's my point. Wash your hands often. I carry hand sanitizer with me, and I carry lotion. I sanitize my hands, and then I put lotion on them so they don't get all messed up. Obviously, the other stuff, don't breathe and cough. But don't get a false sense of security just because you're 6 feet apart and you have a mask and gloves on. It can still spread. But you'll be... If you follow those procedures, keeping your hands clean and washing them and keeping your hands out of your face for the most part, you're safe. You'll be good. So, anyway, I think there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of it's not so much misinformation. It's just a lot of information. And again, in certain situations it's good, in certain situations it's not. You have to figure that out. You have to figure out what works for you. Keep that anxiety down, because high anxiety lowers your immune system, because that puts you into a fight or flight, which starts cutting down your ability to fight infections, because it's trying to decide, survival skills. So keep the anxiety down. To me, that's just as important as wearing gloves and staying 6 feet apart. So with that, I leave you for today. Happy Friday.